You know, we've all been to a hospital at some point, and when we're there, our focus is usually on the doctors, the nurses, the medical side of things. But what if I told you there's an entire invisible network operating behind the scenes, keeping everything and everyone safe? Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at a hospital's hidden shield, the complex systems that protect every single person inside.
Right. It's so easy to just see the human side of healthcare. But underneath all that, a hospital is an incredibly complex machine. I mean, think about it. The lights, the water, even the air you're breathing. It all has to be managed perfectly, 24/7. Because in a hospital, there is just no room for error.
So safety in this context goes way beyond just sterile instruments or talented surgeons. The building itself has to be like a fortress. What's the secret sauce? What does it take to manage all that complexity and make a hospital a truly safe place?
To really understand the shield, we first have to appreciate the dangers it's built to stop. Because behind those calm, quiet corridors and waiting rooms, a hospital is a place of constant, managed risk.
Just try to imagine it for a second. A power outage right in the middle of a surgery. A fire breaking out near highly flammable oxygen tanks. Or a water leak that contaminates a sterile, clean area. These aren't just small hiccups. They're events that could be catastrophic, and they have to be prevented every single day.
So, how do you defend against all these constant threats? Well, you build a shield. And in the healthcare industry, this invisible shield has a name: Facility Management and Safety, or FMS for short.
And let's be clear, this is not just about fixing leaky pipes or changing light bulbs. FMS is a whole strategy. It's the entire system designed to make sure the physical environment, the building itself, is actually helping, not hindering patient safety and positive outcomes. So what is this shield actually made of? Well, it's not one single thing. It's really a series of interconnected layers, and each one is absolutely crucial for total protection. So let's break down the anatomy of what makes a hospital safe. I mean, the scope here is just staggering. We are talking about everything from the basic structural integrity of the building itself to making sure every heart monitor is perfectly calibrated. It's the utility systems, the backup generators, the clean water supply. It's how they handle hazardous waste. It's security, surveillance, and of course having a plan for when it all goes wrong. Every single one of these is a critical piece of that shield.
But here's where it gets really clever. A hospital can't treat its cafeteria the same way it treats an operating room. That would make no sense. The FMS approach is way more sophisticated. It actually assesses the risk of every single area and tailors the safety measures to match.
So, for example, take a low-risk area like an outpatient clinic or some of the admin offices. Of course, they still have standard safety protocols, but they just don't need the same intense level of control as the more critical parts of the hospital.
Now, contrast that with the high-risk zones, like the operating theater or the ICU. This is where you find the absolute toughest measures: specialized air filtration, dedicated backup power, and super restricted access. It just proves that safety isn't a blunt instrument. It's a highly targeted, intelligent system.
An invisible shield is pretty useless if it's not constantly being maintained, right? So who are the guardians of this system? What does it actually take to keep the shield strong day in and day out?
The FMS team is basically in a constant state of watchfulness. They don't just sit around and react to problems, they actively hunt for them. They're out there conducting inspections, running drills, and keeping meticulous records. Their job is a continuous loop of planning, testing, and improving, all to find any weak spot in that shield before it becomes a real problem.
And their approach to emergency readiness really shows you how systematic this all is. A hospital's disaster plan isn't some dusty binder sitting on a shelf. No way. It's a living document that gets tested all the time through drills. Leaders are assigned, and crucial info like evacuation routes is posted everywhere, so that when a crisis hits, there's no guesswork.
And how seriously do they take this practice? Well, the standard is a minimum of 2 full-scale mock drills every single year. Why? Because when a real emergency happens, you don't want people thinking, you want them acting. It's that kind of rehearsed, automatic response that ultimately saves lives. Okay, so we've looked at the systems, the plans, and the teams. But let's bring this all back to the main point. Why does this invisible shield matter so much?
It's really easy to look at all of this and just see a mountain of paperwork.
just a bunch of boxes to check for an inspection. But that completely misses the point. This isn't about bureaucracy.
It's about this, right here. Every single safety check, every maintenance log, every fire drill, it all serves one ultimate purpose: to prevent harm and to save lives. It's about building an environment where patients and their families can have absolute trust that the building itself is helping them heal. That is the true purpose of the Shield.
So, the next time you walk into a hospital, I want you to look a little closer. Notice the fire extinguishers, the emergency exit signs, maybe the vents for a backup generator. They aren't just part of the background. They are all little visible pieces of that huge invisible shield working silently to keep everyone safe. And it kind of makes you wonder, what other invisible shields are all around us every day?